It may still be summer, but today as I'm editing this it is raining outside. Autumn is just around the corner. Today I'm showing you how to use the Catherine Pooler Painted Leaves Stamp and Die set to create a see-through card, which is such a fun and different design for your cards. I'm also using a beautiful autumnal colour scheme that is perfect for that warm, cosy vibe. I'm Verity and welcome to my YouTube channel and blog Pretty Little Button, where I make paper crafting tutorials for the everyday crafter. So as I said, I'm going to use the Catherine Pooler Painted Leaves Stamp and Die set, and then I'm going to include using some sort of acetate sheets. So this is the Judakins Embossable Window Plastic. You can use whatever see-through plastic you have to hand. I've placed some of the leaves in my Misty stamping tool, and then I have placed a piece of white cardstock in that. For the colours that I'm going to be using today, they're very autumnal. So I have Mandarin Spice, Eucalyptus, Merlot and Rouge. Now I'm just showing you the first stamping here. I have not prepped any of my stamps. They are full bold stamps and this is the first time I'm using them. I'm inking them up with each of the 4 colours that I've chose to use for this card, and when I stamp it down you can even see before I've even lifted it up, as I've closed the Misty door, the ink is very beaded. I'm not going to get a very good solid impression. This is because this is the first time I'm using my stamps and I didn't prep them. This is just to show you how important it is really to ensure you prep your stamps to get a really good impression. To do that, I either apply embossing ink over the stamps, which allows you to prep well, or I use an eraser and I rub off the residue that's over the top of the stamps left over from the manufacturing process. And if you just rub it with your eraser, this will dull and sort of mattify the look of the stamps. You then clean it off and then you'll get a good stamping. And as you can see here, when I did the second go of stamping after I prepped them, I got a much more cleaner impression. Now don't worry, I didn't get the best impression, and that was because I didn't ink them up completely, because I'm going to do some two-tone inking of the stamped designs. So I've given a general overview of the colours I've used and I've stamped most of the leaves in these colours. I'm then going to add some of the colours again onto the leaves, but using a different colour on each leaf as to the base layer. I'm not completely inking up the full amount of the leaf, I'm just doing it towards the bottom. And then to allow this colour to sort of fade out and blend into the base layer, I'm then using my blending brushes to sort of soften out the ink on the stamp. So this is just to ensure that I don't get those harsh lines. And I'm just going to repeat this so that you can see that process again. I just add the ink colour to the base of the stamp that I want to add the colour to. I then apply the ink, use my blending brush to then just smudge out and smooth out and blend out that harsh line that you get from your ink pad. And then I stamp this down. Now remember, with dye inks there is the dry back phenomenon, so they will dry back lighter, and as they dry back and dry into the paper they will smooth out and blend into each other beautifully. This just gives your stamped images a bit more interest, especially if they're a full bold layer like this. You can take up that stamping and inking a little bit more. So here I'm just showing you side by side. The initial one where I didn't prep my stamps and it's blotchy, and then the second set where I actually did the two-tone stamping and I got a much beautiful transition and softer layer. Now I stamped about 3 panels of those leaves in the bold layers with the two-tone inking, and I alternated and changed the colours around, colour combinations around. The Painted Leaves stamp set also comes with a second layer, and these are some really fun designs. Now you do want to get right over the top of the stamps as you are positioning these to ensure you line them up, so apologise if my head gets in the way. These are some really interesting designs and motifs on these leaves. They're quite abstract and different from your normal leaf structure, and they really give towards that Boho Fall, which is what the whole collection and release is from Catherine Pooler Designs. So once I have aligned those up, I'm then stamping them in my Wow Clear Ultra Slow Drying Embossing ink, because I want to heat emboss these designs. Obviously you could use any colour ink you want over the top, you don't have to heat emboss, And if you do heat emboss, you can use any colour of heat embossing you wanted. Because I was going for that really warm autumnal feel, I added gold over the top of these colour leaves just to blend and mix and pair well with the colour scheme together. Of course, I'm using my dual speed heat gun on setting 2 to heat set the gold powder. And who cannot get tired of just watching that beautiful embossing powder just melt and you see all that beautiful metallic shine. Once I'd heat embossed all 3 panels, I'm then using the coordinating dies to die cut these out. Just using a bit of washi tape to adhere the dies down, and they're really easy to align up and you get a really beautiful cut. So once they were all cut out, I am then going to start using these to create a see-through card with some acetate sheets. So these acetate sheets are Judekin's window embossable plastic, but you can use any acetate sheets you have. You don't have to use these embossable ones because I'm not actually going to do any heat embossing. They're just what I had in my stash, and that's what I use, but you could use just plain acetate sheets as well. So I've got 2 sheets. They're already pre-cut to an A2 card size, so I didn't have to do anything like that, which is brilliant. But I want to adhere the 2 sheets together. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to, first of all, take a piece of cardstock and I'm going to score about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of a piece of cardstock. I'm then going to cut that another 1/8 of an inch from that score line. So I have a 1/4 of an inch piece of cardstock that is scored in the middle at 1/8 of an inch. Now I would suggest you score before you cut. Otherwise you'll find that slim piece of cardstock very hard to score at the 1/8 of an inch. I've added some tape adhesives. You want some strong adhesive to add to the cardstock strip. And I'm doing this on both sides so that I can then add my acetate sheet to the adhesive at the top. I'm doing this on both sides and then you'll get a tentfold card base that's see-through. Now don't worry, you can use all sorts of different colours of cardstock if you wanted to at the top. I'm going to try and hide most of this cardstock with the leaves. I'm going to fold them over the top. So most of that isn't seen. If you prefer for it not to be seen, maybe you might want to use some actual acetate again to do that. So once I have then created the card panel that's see-through, I can then start positioning the leaves on the panel. And as you can see, you can have fun in all the different orientations, different colours, different positions of the leaves and how you want them. You could, if you really wanted to, sort of align the front and back. But I wasn't that fussed about that. I wanted this see-through look to be as though there are leaves falling, and leaves don't fall in pairs. They don't fall in an exact same pattern. So I wasn't too fussed if this didn't work. I'm just adhering them on with some adhesive tape. You want something strong to keep them down. And then once I've adhered them on, I'm using my guillotine to trim off all the excess leaves that overhang the edge. You can obviously use all these offcuts to fill any gaps in if you need to. And then because we've used adhesive and it's see-through, you will see that adhesive on the back of the leaves inside the card panel. Now, if you want to make sure that your panel looks neat, you can then cover this up with some additional die cuts. Now, what I did was I used the coordinating dies just to die cut out of white cardstock. And I made sure I cut enough for the amount of leaves that I used on my panel. I'm then using the direct to paper method by inking up each of these die cuts with the 4 colours that I use to stamp the leaves in. I'm not doing a two-tone sort of look to the leaves. You could do with some ink blending if you wanted to, but I just wanted a really quick method to colour them. The most important thing is though, you need to colour the back of the die cuts because you want them to match up with the stamped ones on the front, and it's the back you're covering up. So it's really important that you colour the back of the die cut. If you colour the front, don't worry, you can easily amend it by just flipping it over and then colouring the back. Again, I'm just using some tape adhesive to adhere these down, lining them up on the inside, adhering them down, and then I'm just cutting off all that excess. And this means that when you open your card, you aren't going to see all that messy adhesive and all that sort of behind the scenes aspect to the card. Now obviously you may be wondering, where can I put a sentiment? Where can I write inside the card? You can obviously ensure that one of the leaves on the front of the card when you place the die cut in the middle to cover up that adhesive, don't colour it if you don't want to, just leave it white. And that's a lovely area that you can just add your sentiment to. I also then added a sentiment to the front of the card as well. And for this sentiment, I just stamped the Happy Fall Y'all sentiment from the new Give Thanks sentiment stamp set that is also released in this Painted Leaves Fall bundle. I stamped this in the Mandarin Spice. I then used my scissors to fussy cut around it, and I adhered it to the front with one of the leaves. Have you ever tried making a see-through card? Would you give this a go? Let me know in the comments below what you think. It's such a unique design and such a fun way to use your stamps and dies and really wow your recipient as they take this out of the envelope. All the products used in today's video are linked in the description box below. This is part of the new release from Catherine Pooler, Boho Fall. This will be available for Stamp Nation members to buy on Tuesday the 10th of August at 12 PM Eastern Time. It's available to buy for the general public on the 11th of August at 9 AM Eastern Time. Do head over to my blog, you can see some more photos over there, and I'd love to know what you think of the card. Until next time, happy crafting!